questions about trauma is how global is it, how much of a big issue is it? And I think that in order to really address that question, we have to look at really evolution and the history of the planet, history of mammals, the history of mankind. For about 100 million years, mammals have been responding to stress and threat in the same way. And only in about the last 3, 4, 5,000 years has there been a species on the planet which has begun to malfunction in relation to stress and threat. And this is the human being. And the more advanced our societies become, the more advanced and complex the humans seem to become, the worse we get at it. So what's happening is that where a polar bear will go into a state of trauma because of an overwhelming threat and recover very quickly from that trauma if it survives the threat, human beings don't. Human beings go into trauma and then they don't recover. The nervous system doesn't reset. So as a result, they end up behaving very differently to all the other mammals on the planet. And when we look around at our planet, we look at how global an issue is this. Of course, there's lots of events that are happening that are traumatic, but I think more problematic than that is that the world we live in, the society we live in, is actually shaped by individuals who are behaving as if they haven't recovered yet from trauma in general. So we live in a world where we're the only species that destroys the planet. We're the only species that kills each other for no particularly advantageous reason. We're really the first malfunctioning mammal this planet has ever seen. Any mammal that's confronted by a threat will have a very, very deep, primal, early evolutionary response. The first one was probably a reptilian type freeze, and then you get fight, flight in early mammals, and then you get a kind of more of a social response in primates that start to organize a hierarchy. So when we go into freeze, what happens is the nervous system just bungs up and something is stopped. And this is to avoid us burning out, like a sort of domestic switch where you just cut the power when there's too much current. And what's supposed to happen, and what we see in every other mammal on the planet, is that if the mammal survives that threat, what will happen is the nervous system will drop down a notch from, there I was at the red alert, I'll go back to yellow alert, run off that energy. You'll see mammals prancing, kicking, twitching, fighting, and then they come back to what doctors would call homeostasis, which is the place that they began from. Now what we see in humans' response to stress is that the traumatic injury happens and then the nervous system doesn't reset. So it's like coming off the treadmill, but your heart rate doesn't slow down. And next thing you know, you've been on the treadmill every single day of your childhood and your heart rate is just maxed out for good. The system is racing all the time. It's like taking a car and gluing the accelerator to the floor. Post-traumatic means that we've got to the highest level of responding to stress, so trauma has kicked in. And then it's a stress disorder, which means that we haven't recovered into a regulated nervous system. So we remain actually hovering around that top piece. What the body's trying to do is clear from the top part of that cycle down to where it came from. And as it tries to clear, it gets re-triggered back into it. It tries to clear, it gets re-triggered back into it. And that basically means that biologically we're revisiting, like a war veteran is revisiting the combat zone over and over and over again as the body tries to move on from it. But the core problem is not that there's something broken. The core problem is that something normal that happens in every mammal, has happened for hundreds of millions of years, is stuck and sort of halfway through its process.